Hi, this is Ashes, and this is Annie, and we are starting a new segment about tarantulas, spiders, and different kinds of creepy crawlies, and the information about them that people kind of overlook because they're afraid of them, and that's fine. I used to be afraid of spiders too. I'm here to educate about the different kinds of spiders and what to look out for if you encounter a certain kind of spider that you don't know anything about. But just to start things off on the first episode, we'll talk about Chilean Rose Hairs, which is what Annie is. The lifespan for these, female is about 20 years, male span about 5 years, so you can see who's in charge around here. So where can you find these little guys? Well, most often in a pet store, or you find out that your weird friend has had a tarantula all along and you didn't know about that. But of course, their real and natural habitat is in South America, of course in Chile and surrounding countries, usually in desert scrub areas. You can also kind of find them in movies and TV shows depicting them as terrifying and deadly creatures, although that is not the case, of course. So if you're new to rose hair tarantulas and you want to have one or you have one already, and it's maybe not enjoying its habitat, and you can tell this because it's going to be climbing the walls of its tank or climbing up onto the ceiling. That usually just means that it's uncomfortable with its surroundings. If you're spraying a lot of water into its tank or moistening the ground often, Chilean rose hairs do not need a wet environment. They need a dry one. And I made that mistake too. When I first had tarantulas, I was constantly keeping it wet, and I was like, why does she keep climbing her tank? And that was why. So if you notice that your tarantula is doing that, try rearranging your environment, add new soil, and make sure that she's enjoying her new environment. Rose hairs are super docile and not very active at all. You know, they're actually referred to as the pet rock of pets in the tarantula community. Not very interesting at all. I guess she's interesting to me for my own reasons, but other than that, pretty lame. Super easy to hold, and that's why they're used cosmetically in a lot of different films and media. If you manage to get bitten by this tarantula, there's nothing to fear. It's most likely, even though it is venomous, that does not mean that it is deadly. If you manage to get bitten by this kind of tarantula, it'll be like kind of like a bee sting, but there might be a little bit of blood just because of the size of its fangs. You know, it's really uncommon for rose-haired tarantulas to even want to bite anybody. If you manage to spook this kind of spider, or any tarantula at all, there's a thing called urticating hairs. Urticating hairs are barbed hairs that all tarantulas have, and they use as a self-defense mechanism when they feel spooked or threatened. They flick off the urticating hairs, and it's just gets into the skin and it's irritable. This has actually happened to me before with Annie. I was bringing her from my parents' place back to my place, and I had her tank in the van, and I made the mistake of going in to check on her in between stops. Of course, that really spooked her. She was not a fan of that. It happens really fast. You don't even see them do it. There are some videos online of people intentionally spooking their tarantulas just so that you can see the process of what they do with the urticating hairs. But if they do release hairs on you, it's mostly just going to be rashy and itchy. Nothing super bad, and it'll be gone within a week. So what's the diet like for Chilean rose hairs? Well, just like about any other spider in the world, they eat insects. Big surprise there. But mostly, if you have a tarantula, you're going to just want to get crickets from different pet shops. The crickets that pet shops have are gut-fed with different vegetables and fruits for the tarantula and helps keep it very healthy. So that's going to be your best bet. If you have a tarantula, try to keep household found insects to a minimum. I'm sure it's not too bad, but insects that are found can have insecticide on them and can be deadly to your tarantula. So, fun fact about tarantulas, and of course Chileans specifically, is that they molt. In their molting process, they actually turn upside down. Whenever a spider is upside down, that usually means that it's dead, but not with tarantulas. Tarantulas are going to turn upside down to molt and get out of their old skin. I actually made the mistake when I was a newbie tarantula owner, and she was molting for the first time when I had her, and I was freaking out because I thought she was dead, and I turned her back over, and that is a very bad thing to do. I should not have done that. Thankfully, she was super early into the molting process, and it really didn't hurt her at all. but if you flip over a tarantula while she's molting, that can be deadly and that can kill her. Always do your research. If your spider's doing something weird, just look it up, make sure that you understand what is going on with your tarantula. Male spiders are actually going to have a smaller abdomen and leggy legs. They're really skinny legs and they're small abdomen, and that just means that they're just smaller in general than the females. The females are going to have a larger abdomen and bigger, thicker legs. If you see any sort of spider in your house, that means that it's probably a female. Actually, if you see any spider around at all, it's probably a female because the male's already been dead for who knows how long. Thank you so much for listening. I've wanted to be able to educate the public about different kinds of spiders for a long time. I would be happy to answer anything and any sort of questions that you have for me and help to educate on different kinds of spiders. Thank you again so much for listening. Like, subscribe the video, and yeah, send me any comments or questions that you might have about spiders. Thanks. You've been sitting there a long time, haven't you?